basement until we can afford enough money to send for him and his mother. And my grandfather lived to 96, and I saw him every day of my life, pretty much until he passed away a few years ago. And he remembered leaving his house where it was a dirt floor and a thatched roof. And when you were brought up overseas, where he was, for us, it would have meant a life if you would have been murdered or killed, or a life of poverty and degradation. And in America, there was unlimited opportunity, and you made life of what you made of it. And it was based on our way of life, and it's based on the founding fathers and what they set forth in the Constitution. We're no better by biology or any smarter than people overseas, other places. It's the limited government, individual rights, and the free enterprise system that made us what we are. And that's at risk now, in my opinion. We have, for the first time in our country's history, some call him the post-American president. I don't believe he believes in American exceptionalism. I think he sees himself as a citizen of the world first and an American second. And I think that's put at risk what makes our country unique. It wants to turn us into something like France or Sweden or Greece or the Soviet Union. And that's why I'm running. And all of us have seen, I was in Little River yesterday, which is on the North Carolina line, at a Blue Crab Festival. And from here to the North Carolina line, you see billboards for one of the candidates. And that's what access to money does. I want to show that you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm no better or worse than anybody in this room. I still work about 10, 12 hours a day at my job, feel the churning in my stomach whether I'm going to make ends meet. That may make it tough to campaign, but I think it'd make a better representative, so I'm not removed from the concerns that every one of you have. And I believe strongly in term limits because of human nature. Not me or any of the other candidates or anybody in this room can go up there and not become part of the problem if you make it a career, because you're always wondering what's going to happen, how it affects your career, and move to the next level. And I also think that ought to apply that you take an oath of office to uphold it. And I think that means you shouldn't run for one office while you're holding another office, because especially there's one candidate, and I'm not making this up, he's either held or run for 4 offices in about the last 2 years. And when you do that, it's about you, not about us. And that allows you to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you're in the State House and you're running for Congress, all those businesses you regulate, you have control and pass legislation, well, they give you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you come to Congress with baggage. And you're naive if you think that if they tell you and they want you to be their spokesman, you're going to find a way to rationalize doing what they want. So I believe in term limits, so you have average citizens, a turnover, and also that you should not run if you're holding one office. And I think that the being a career politician, it separates the problems from what we all face. And you all know about it, and I believe in the Constitution. The 10th Amendment is what provides for limited government. And that's one way I would cut things. We need to restrict the federal government to those things that they are constitutionally empowered to do. Those things not specifically delegated to the federal government are prohibited to the states, are restricted to the states, are the people. And the people is the right to private property, which is the root of all advancement. I was on the Charleston County School Board, and I saw how they introduced what I would consider, they dumbed down education. They made it part of the welfare state, in effect socialized education. And the same people who did that now are in our federal government trying to socialize our education. And I can be specific. They introduced what was called cooperative learning when I was on the school board, where you lump the smartest and most motivated students with the least motivated students, and everybody would get the same grade. And of course, human nature being what it is, the smartest and most hardworking people would learn that they didn't have to work as hard, or why should they if they couldn't get ahead? And those who were least motivated, well, I'll let him do it. And that's basically the redistribution of wealth in education, which is what they applied. And that's the day I took my daughter out, my oldest daughter, out of public school and homeschooled her, because I thought she was learning all the wrong lessons. So this is something that I feel from the heart, and I feel our federal government is doing the same thing under Obama. And what kind of person I'd be when Hillary Clinton came, you remember the first debate she had with Barack Obama, and I believe that I would hold our Congress to take honoring their oath to uphold the Constitution, because again, the Congress has no rights outside the Constitution. And I believe that if it's not in there, they can't do it. And one of my big things when I was on the school board was to eliminate racial quotas from Charleston County schools. They had admissions policies to Buste Academy. And they had, just like this, we were standing up here on the school board, and we had a mother and father come in front of us. And the father was English or Irish, and the mother was from the Philippines. And they came with their little daughter, and we had to make a choice. Well, was the daughter like the mother or the father? And that decision would have determined whether she got into school or not. And I apologized to her. I said, that's a disgrace. In America, you're not a Hispanic citizen, an Asian citizen, a white citizen, or a black citizen, and you're a United States citizen. And it's the heart of all we are, and we all want to be treated as individuals, not what group we're under. And we ended that, in my opinion, with quotas or racial set-asides. What I saw up front is what all that means behind the scenes. I also represented Elizabeth Kandrek. That was the school teacher at Brentwood who was beaten and racially cursed in the most horrific way you can imagine. And the administrator said that it was the culture of the students to beat and curse her. And under the Constitution, they said, well, the Constitution didn't apply to her. And we proved that it did. I've also represented black students in Williamsburg County who were beaten up for the crime of acting white by other students of the same race. And we also defended them under the Constitution. So I believe what's unique about our history is we're individuals under the law and not what group we're in. And we have the blessings of liberty are being at risk now for the first time in our country's history because of the out-of-control spending and budget deficit. So I think we need not only to freeze spending, but freeze it at pre-Obama levels, because it won't do any good to lock in all the stimulus benefits. And we need to reduce, I would eliminate the Department of Education, and I would limit the role of government to what it has constitutional authority. There's no role in our government for control of private enterprise or the education of our children. I think I'm getting tapped for the interview stage.
I just don't want you to lose this.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kobrovsky. Have a seat, please.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with CovertRadio.com.